Hey everybody, welcome back. You've seen me for 3 times today. I hope you're not tired of me yet. I'm not tired of me yet, and I'm definitely not tired of Brice yet either. So welcome to Solutions with Shanti and our beautiful Brice, who on a Wednesday, we're doing all our lovely Wednesday things. And today we're looking more into the Jesuits again, right?
Yes, we're gonna talk smack, guys. We're gonna get petty.
Schmackaroo.
We're gonna get petty. We're gonna be petty buddies
Well,
over
we're
here.
gonna get, and you see, I don't have tea today, I have water. So we're going to get really petty because I'm irritated.
Listen, if you need to grab a glass of wine, grab a glass of wine because we're gonna get petty. We're gonna
I
gossip.
think this is champagne time. This is champagne time.
The more you know, right? Like we're taking our power back because these mother effers, like, I just like we see you. We see you.
Yeah, right.
And of course, we're looking at them. My intention was to look. I mean, I already knew they were sinister, but my intention into looking into the Jesuits was because of Francis Borgia, which I laugh because we think that the original Borgias, Rodrigo and the Borgia Four, were the real nefarious ones. In my opinion, they're Care Bears compared to Francis, one of their descendants. But we got to look at the Jesuits first so we really understand Francis. And then we're going to also be, after we get past the Jesuits, we're also going to be having to look at necromancy and witchery because that's all part of it as well. And so, it's these guys, man, let me tell you. So we talked a little bit about it last week, but we kind of talked more about the energy. And so now I just kind of want to go through more of the timeline of what we're told, how the Jesuits came to be. And I know, like, Shanti, because I get this a lot on my channel too. Like Shanti and I, if you guys are new, like what, a year ago or something, we went through Tartaria. We are fully aware that there is an alternative timeline. We are fully aware that there's a possibility that our geography is wrong. We are fully aware of all of this. Now, I will tell you guys again, just to reiterate so we don't get the trolls. When I do my deep dives, though, I am going to be sticking to the mainstream narrative because that just keeps it organized in our heads. With that being said, the story, something that people have asked the Cassiopeans about this, like what's right, and they basically kind of say both timelines are correct. Maybe the geography might be wrong, but when we look at the dates, we are looking at more things spread out. So if anything's not accurate, it's probably more of the dates than anything. But we still see the manipulation in the story, even if the story is not 100% how it actually happened. There, we can still overall see the manipulation. So just wanted to get that out of the way first, because Shanti, in this truth of the world, people are quick to be like, but that's not the real timeline. And I'm like, we don't actually know what the thing is, friends. We don't actually know what the real timeline is. And if we just cling to the Tartarian timeline without even considering the mainstream timeline to also be a possibility, then we are closing our minds down. So for me, I'm kind of just keeping both possibilities open, not attaching. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like, listen, you guys, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. We are where we are. Like, we got here somehow, and that's what matters. So anyway, just wanted to kind of get that out of the way. So let's talk about these heathens, these Jesuits, you guys. And I've got my notes kind of scattered everywhere on this. So basically, the Jesuits are the Society of Jesus. That's what they're called. And they're basically the army. They're the Pope's army. So they are literally the army for the New World Order, for the one world government, for the Illuma Schmati. I think we should make that into a t-shirt, Illuma Schmati, because they won't let us say real words, so we'll just make an ass out of their words anyway. So
that's actually very good. That's actually a very good way of describing them, is the army for the New World Order. I think it's probably the most succinct way I've heard anyone put it. So yeah, I would definitely.
I mean, that's what they are. I mean, that's basically what the evidence points to. And we're going to look at like the Jesuit oath. So the Illuma Schmati, or the Illuma Schmati, basically the Jesuits, same. The Loomies, the Loomies, the illuminated ones.
Yeah.
They were started by a man named Ignatius of Loyola. And so I just briefly want to touch on him. That was not his birth name, but that's how he's known. So I'm just going to call him Ignatius of Loyola. Now this dude, he's obviously sainted by the Catholic Church. We're going to get into sainthood deeper looking at Francis Borgia, so just hold that note in your head. He was born on the 23rd of October 1491 in the castle of Loyola in the Basque region of Spain to minor nobility. At this time, as we spoke about last week, the church was losing its control of the world. So what do we mean by this? We mean the Protestant Reformation. And if you joined us last week, we got deeply into this conversation about the Protestants and the Catholics. And I said last week, and I actually, this is an opinion I've held for most of my adult life. Even in university, I used to argue this point. I grew up Protestant. I know, Chantelle, you grew up Protestant. I know a lot of our viewers grew up Protestant. Let's just be honest. We're going to talk about this with the Jesuits. Protestantism today is just as corrupt as Catholicism, right? But the emergence of Protestantism and the Protestant Reformation, even though Martin Luther wasn't a great guy, but just the idea, remember, these aren't, there are people that are this was like a wave of enlightenment. What my argument is that the Protestant Reformation actually inspired people-oriented government, autonomy. It inspired capitalism. It inspired people breaking. It was like one of the first breaks from the Matrix, right? Now, of course, they scooped the Protestants right back in again. But this is why, and we know whenever something breaks from the Matrix, we can always tell when the other side is scared, because they start doing things like the War of Religions, the Spanish Inquisition. They're violently attacking people who pull away from the Catholic Church. And it's not because they're worried about their salvation, right? Let's be clear.
For sure.
You know, it's control. And so at this time, the church was losing its control because we have the emergence, people, you know, with the Renaissance, which was the Borgia, we have this age of enlightenment where people are interested in humanity. They're interested in the effects of humanity. They're interested in love and art and poetry and understanding human behavior. That's why we see a growth in the arts and music. And with that, again, comes this need to individuate. That's a word we use today, to individuate and to have autonomy. And any high control organization, whether it be religion or political, which the Catholic Church was and is both, does not want people to individuate. When you want to enslave people, you don't want them to be individuals, right? So this was a uh-oh for the powers that be, for the Illumishmati, right? Uh-oh. And so they wanted to create a organization and a propaganda to counter the Protestant Reformation. All right. Now let's talk a little bit. Ignatius of Loyola was the perfect person to do this because this dude was a raging narcissist. Like, if you have, I mean, he is reading his life. I'm like, how, no offense to Catholics, but how do you read about a man like this and think that's a winner? Like, this is the type of man that's going to send you to therapy. Like, if you're going after men like this, because I used to go after men like this, you're going to end up, you got daddy issues and you're going to end up in therapy. Let's talk about old Iggy. We'll call him Iggy. He was, from a very young age, he had this need to be famous. We have that still today, right? People have this longing to be famous. But back in this time, there was no television, there was no tiki-taki, there was no Instagram, there was no YouTube. So how did people become famous back then? They either got famous through politics, through war, or through the church by being sainted. So he was already born like a Kardashian to nobility, right? Interesting. Yeah, he was born to this very wealthy family. He dressed very eccentrically. Now, again, this wasn't abnormal for the Renaissance. People were very colorful clothing, but he definitely was like the metrosexual dude that was carrying the man purse and wanted everybody to see his outfit. He was very concerned with his looks, and he desperately wanted to be famous. And so he studied warriors. He wanted to be a famous person from battles, right? And so he trained to become this famous military army dude, you know. And this was, of course, during the Spanish Inquisition was starting. We had the battle with trying to get the Moors out of Spain. We've also got the War of Religions in France. Remember, he's in the Basque Country. So he's surrounded by battle. He's surrounded by death. You know, they said that when he was training, I love this. You know, I laugh because in like traditional yoga, we get our asses handed to us all the time. Like Indian teachers are not sweet. They're not going to like read poetry to you and blow sparkles up your ass. Like they're going to be basically be like, why are you crying? Why? My teacher's like, why cry? Like he's like very just blunt, you know, if you've gained a little bit of weight, he'll be like, why belly coming? You know, like you know, like very just blunt. So the fact that he could not handle his criticism from his the people that trained him, it just cracked me up. Because I'm like, dude, like I'm a woman and I can handle it. Like, you know, like it's just very narcissistic, right? So around this time though, as he's getting, so Martin Luther again was one of his contemporaries. And as we spoke about last week, yeah, Martin Luther wasn't a perfect guy either. Again, we can't, I even say this with the Illuminati, there's complexity here, right? There's complexity. And if we're going to be fair and if we're going to heal, then we can't just paint people black and white. We have to understand, seek to understand so you can be understood. We have to look at these situations in a broader picture. Yeah, so Martin Luther, even though Martin Luther kind of, when he nailed his theses to the church wall was that was like what, 1517, that like kicked off, this the official date of the kickoff of the Protestant Reformation. It's not like officially when it started, it was like a domino, like it was a snowball that was building, right? And they just officially, when he basically nailed this FU basically to the Catholic Church on the door. Now, Martin Luther never wanted to remove himself from the Catholic Church. He just wanted to reform the Catholic Church. And that's what we see a lot with the beginning of the Protestant Reformation is people just want to reform it. You know, you teach people to read and write and know art and poetry. Guess what? They're going to start reading the Bible. They're going to start reading these things and realizing they're being conned. Especially one of the big things with the Protestant Reformation, because this goes into the Jesuits, was that the Protestants don't believe in transubstantiation. I can never say that word. They don't believe that by eating the cracker and drinking the wine, so the Catholics believe that the cracker and the wine turns into the blood and the body of Christ once they eat it. Protestants were like, no, this is a metaphor. It's all cannibalism at the end of the day. Whether you're pretending to be a cannibal or you literally think you're eating blood and body. So that's a topic for a different day. So that was one of the big things. Another thing was purchasing property in heaven. The Catholic Church had gotten super wealthy, not only by raiding during the Crusades and confiscating wealth, but they also basically would hang your salvation over your head. And if you didn't give so much money to them, you could be cast into hell. And we're going to get into why that is in a second. This all leads up to the Jesuits, right? So when the people started reading the Bible, they're like, wait a minute, hold on. And at this point, they did have what's called the Geneva Bible, which we spoke about with King James. You can go find that episode on Aquarius Rising Africa. So we won't get into that. The Bible they had then is not the same Bible we have now, right? The Bible we have now was written by King James and the Freemasons. This was a different Bible they had back then. All right. So all these things are falling apart. They're not submitting to the Pope. They believe the Pope is like ordained by God before this to be the spokesperson for God. Now they're like, absolutely not. That's BS. They don't believe the Pope has any power over them, which is really going to be a problem for the New World Order for people to believe this. They don't believe they're actually eating Jesus when they take communion. So there's all these problems happening. And this was Martin Luther's big FU when he nailed the thesis to the door. I mean, that was a little naive of Martin Luther to think he could just take down the Vatican and take down the Pope just with his thesis. But nonetheless, that's what kind of spawned it, right? You know, so this was in 1517. Now in 1521, Martin Luther had to respond to the Holy Roman Empire's charges of heresy. Now, we talked about this last week. Do you guys remember what heretic means? Heretic means one who does not follow the official narrative. So we're all heretics. Guess what?
You don't conform.
Yeah, we don't conform. We're heretic basically is another word for critical thinking. That's what heretic, it has nothing to do with demons. It has if you look it up, if you actually look the definition up on your computer, on the Google machine, it will say someone who does not follow the official opinion or the official narrative. So was Martin Luther guilty of heresy? Absolutely. Am I guilty of heresy? Proudly so. I think we should all be very proud. We should be Aquarius rising heretics. That's who we are, right? Like, proudly so. You know, like, I absolutely. Thank you. For those who call me a heretic, thank you so much. That's so kind of you. Absolutely, I think for myself.
Compliment.
You know? Yes. So
for any Aquarian, that's a compliment. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Like, I am unique, and I think for myself. Thank you so much. Well, Martin Luther, of course, I guess Martin Luther didn't have the Google machine to tell him that's what heretic meant, because he responded that no, he wasn't a heretic, because he was under the impression that heretic meant what they want you to think it means, which is you're being led by demons. You know, he's like, no.
You're a Satanist, basically, yeah.
Yeah. They flip it, right? They flip it on you. You're not a critical thinker who can individuate and make up their own mind. You are dark because you don't follow what we're telling you to do.
And you've been led astray.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I get emails from Christians all the time telling me I'm a heretic. I'm like, at your service.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. I can, you know, if you rejected this thing, you're a heretic, right?
Yeah.
You're a heretic. If you know that the media lies to you, you're a heretic, right? It's a badge of honor.
And if you go against the teachings of the church, you're a heretic.
You're a heretic. Yeah. So it's a powerful word that's been used in propaganda. And if we know the definition of these words, then we can change the outcome of the future, right? So so the same year, 1521, when Martin Luther had to respond to this charging of heresy by the Roman Catholic Church, old Ignatius, our little narco, our cute little narcissist down trying to be the hero, he got injured. He got hit by a cannonball. He got injured. And so he ended up being so severely injured that typically I don't laugh when people get hit by cannonballs, but this story is just adorable because, you know, he's just so adorable. Ignatius of Loyola. He's just so narcissistic and just so cute in his little narcissism. And he ends up in this little hospital bed, his cute little hospital bed. And the doctors are like, oh, shucks, Ignatius, your leg is so badly injured that you're going to walk with a limp for the rest of your life. So unfortunately, boo, you can't go back to battle. So most people would be grateful just to be the F alive, that they actually survived a cannonball. I think that's pretty heroic in itself to be like, not many people can say they survived a cannonball. You can. But no, little Iggy, little Ignatius, little cute little narcissist that he is, was sitting up in this bed getting all pissy because now he can't be a war hero. He can't be the fighting Kardashian, right? He can't have his 5 million followers on TikTok because he can't be this war hero. And so he starts reading these other books on saints. So he decides that if he can't be a war hero and be famous, he is going to be the most eccentric religious man that you can think of to be famous. And so after he is released from his recovery, he's walking with a limp. That is legit. He had a limp from the cannonball. He decides that he's going to give all his money away and he's going to go live in a cave like Francis of Assisi. Because, you know, narcissists can't come up with their own ideas, so they have to copy others, right? They have to mirror others. So he pulls old Francis from Assisi because he, at this point, Francis, only a few hundred years separated from him, he's like super famous, right? Francis of Assisi is like an idol for Christendom. So he moves his ass to a cave. And he starts like beating himself up, like doing the whipping, which self-harm is a sign of what we call borderline personality today, which that makes sense because a lot of times borderline and narcissism run together. And isn't
it interesting? Sorry, you mentioned that borderline and narcissism, and isn't it interesting that that was part of the rituals, if you will, for some of the churches? That I think it's called flagellate.
Yeah. Oh, I've got some. Oh, don't worry, guys. It's on our list. We've got some orders. After we get through this, I've got a list of, so I'm going to look into some of these orders that do flagellation. Yeah, that do we're going to deep dive into those because, yeah.
Narcissism, self-harm in the church.
Yeah, exactly. And what freaking, and I'm going to repeat this again for all of us coming out of the fog of spell casting and propaganda. Let me repeat, the God of light, the God of the creator God, he doesn't require blood rituals or
no.
You know, I was talking to my yoga class was laughing about this. Like, you know, friction is good, you know, to find your discomfort, but I'd rather just do a damn yoga class than smack myself with nails. You know, there's boundaries here. You know, when you're in the demolition of yoga, it's controlled and it's voluntary and it's not going to kill you. It's just going to make you a little uncomfortable. They're borderline playing with their lives when they do this stuff. And that's not self-harm. Like that is different. It's not. So you can see where the darkness takes from the light and manipulates and inverts. And we know that the church praises martyrdom, which we're going to get into again with sainthood when we get deeper into our discussion on Francis Borgia. And we know that martyrdom is of the darkness. So all of these, it's a total clusterfuck of like taking what's true and just twisting it and inverting it and making people feel like they have to suffer. Like, you know, again, suffering in a yoga class, that's an hour of your day where you're physically just uncomfortable. It's not the same as flagellating yourself. And making yourself bleed. No. And he also did a lot of fasting. Now, I thought this was interesting, Shanti, because I think you fast a lot. And I think we know the difference between someone who is fasting for spiritual purposes and somebody who is starving themselves because they have a mental disorder. And in fact, if you guys
remember, interesting as well. Sorry, Brice, just to chime in. I mean, I just like to see, because again, we're looking at the evolution of how this has played out. So in the early days, self-flagellation was probably considered the norm in certain religious societies or whatever it was, right? So we have the church, self-flagellation, and narcissism. And now all these years later, self-harm is considered mental illness, although, and will end up, it will invariably get you prescription drugs or something like that if you allopathic and mainstream, right?
Yep.
But isn't that interesting? So it's almost like the narcissism of the church has now turned that around, said, shame, poor you pitiful thing, there's something wrong with you. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, not too long ago, it was introduced by the church, basically.
Absolutely. Ding, ding, ding. Well, one of my favorite quotes is, the fish stinks from the head down. So this narcissism is coming from the New World Order. It's coming from the Vatican City, you know, and so it's coming into, and it's manipulating us people with souls. I don't know if Ignatius had a soul. Doesn't sound like it. But he fasted so much that and we even, Shanti, when we did our shadow work challenge, and we made it very clear with the fasting portion that if anybody struggles with eating disorder, it was advised for them not to fast at this moment, you know, because fasting is not for weight loss. In fact, I think if you fast for weight loss, you're going to be shocked after you don't eat for 3 days and you eat something, sometimes you just bloat out because your body's regulating. So what he did though is basically starving himself, starvation. And so I feel like when you already have when you already have a very skewed view of self-importance, I mean, everybody should think they're important, but we also see that everybody else is important too. That's a healthy-minded person. And you are already showing signs of personality, what we would call personality disorders. And then you destabilize yourself, like you're starving yourself, you're living in a cave. You are putting yourself on literally and metaphorically shaky ground. And I'm pretty sure some of this flagellation might have been mimicking rituals this kid was a part of as a kid. I can only imagine that this was going on. And
that's
so
exactly what I was thinking.
Yep.
That this must be part of ritual training. And again, it would be very interesting to look into that, actually, to see if that is part of kids' ritual training. I mean, there's something called the slave programming. That's one of the MK Ultra programs called slave programming, and it has something to do with being lashed.
Well, I mean, that's interesting because I definitely think Ignatius was a puppet for the New World Order, but I also think he was a hierarchy kid as well. That would be
Yeah,
definitely a Caleb or a Jesse question.
yeah.
Because I mean, I can assume like you, I can speculate and assume just from what we know, but they might know more about his backstory just looking at the evidence than I would be able to say. But I would not be shocked if this is all coming from SRA. But nonetheless, this dude started to like talk to himself. Now, listen, I think we all talk to ourselves sometimes, but like people in the town started noticing it. Like I'm
Brice, you
serious,
said
right?
like an old lady having tea. People in the town started
Started
noticing.
noticing it. Like, I mean, it's like the homeless guys around here that talk to themselves. I mean, this is basically what was happening. Ignatius was basically homeless. He was living in a damn cave. But
Oh,
everybody knew that he was like a rich kid, so he was choosing. He could just go run home to his castle at any point he wanted, you know? And then he started talking to himself, like I imagine like we have some homeless guys around here that have been on the streets for so long, you can see that it's changed them. They've gone wild, and so I kind of avoid when I see them I kind of cross the street. No judgment to them. I feel so bad for people who are homeless. Like I can't imagine what they've experienced, but just for my own safety, because they're obviously not in their right mind. So we've got this guy that's like totally not grounded. He's going through intense abuse to himself and from others, I'm assuming, and he's talking to, or literally talking to himself. I think he's actually talking to demons. Is also because he started to have like experiences of like seeing like he would like be talking to someone with schizophrenia. Is this, has he induced schizophrenia anyway? Because I absolutely agree with your guess that schizophrenia is not what we think it is. I think it's not like hallucinations. I think it's definitely Lizzie's or
yeah, it's
demons.
not voices in the head or stuff like that. It's definitely entities that have
They're being
attached to
used.
these that are used to that attach themselves to these vacant bodies whose souls have been stolen,
Yep.
so that they can become soul gems and a
Yep.
battery for the arcane, basically.
And my stalker that I just have gone through court cases with, she was ruled by the court to be incompetent and have schizophrenia. But she has extreme narcissism. And I think my boyfriend and I were talking about this. When you have extreme narcissism, I think when an entity comes in to entice you with power and you'll fall for it, right? You'll start to fall for it. But when you don't have narcissism, when an entity comes and tries to entice you with stuff, you're always going to be skeptical. Yeah. And so I think that's what hooks people. And he wrote from
Check this out.
yeah. Yeah.
Isn't this crazy, Princess Valencia? I mean, isn't this crazy? Because again, here we are, like just looking at society and this now being a norm for part of
And this has been
like,
done. This has been done before. This has obviously been done before. This was normal back in Ignatius's time as well. And I'm thinking what she's saying here with I'm thinking of like the hipster kids of New York. That's kind of what, in my opinion, what Ignatius, I call him Iggy. I make up nicknames for all these historical people. I don't think they called him Iggy, but that's what I call him. I think that he was probably kind of like that hipster cool kid, that he was this rich kid. Like literally, if we placed him in our world today, he was probably like a Kardashian who had a huge TikTok following and he wanted to be more famous. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's the same story. Different, yeah. So rave hipster kids, yeah. So same story, different timeline and different expression of that timeline. So
interesting that it's underground as well. Obviously, underground. If you look at the underground, if you guys have watched Caleb's shows on the Shinkana, the place where one forgets oneself, because that's really hell. And I
yeah,
equate that as well. If you look at man born into sin, sin is really forgetting the source of who you are. So you do things out of character with God's will because you've forgotten your power, blah, blah, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But then you go into the Shinkana, the underworld, hell, basically, where you kind of forget your name, right? I mean, it's interesting because then when you come out of that and you understand all of these things, makes perfect sense again.
Yeah, and Jojo just said someone started it though and knew what it was doing. Absolutely, and I think it's been going on for a very long time. It's
Mm.
and that it we see that. So during this time, you guys, he wrote from 1522 to 1524. Ignatius wrote this book called Spiritual Exercises, and I literally, no joke, you guys, before I even looked at it, when I just wrote down, I wrote in my, I mean, it's right here. I wrote spell book. Like that was what my gut told me, was this is a spell book. And I was kind of right, which we're going to get into, because that is the Jesuit oath. And do we want to, what do you want to do, Shanti? Do we want to go through like the Council of Trent and all that stuff before we look at the Jesuit oath, or do we want to go ahead and look at the Jesuit oath?
I think let's look at the oath.
Okay.
And I think it's always good to look at that and see how everything else
Falls
filters
into
off
place,
from
because
that.
this is, and I'm gonna share screen here so I can pull it up, Shanti, for our
Yeah.
viewers. I've got the PDF here. I think I sent you the PDF as well. You guys, you can just, I mean, you can just Google the, especially in America, I just Googled PDF and it came right up. So this was his spiritual exercises, okay? And pulled it up because I know there's some words that I cannot say. All right, so let's just go ahead. Let's skip to the second paragraph. When a Jesuit of the minor rank is to be elevated to command, he is conducted into the chapel of the covenant of the order, where there are only 3 others present, the principal or the superior standing in front of the altar. So that's the Black Pope, the superior general, what Francis Borgia was. On either side stands a monk, one of whom holds a banner of yellow and white, which are papal colors, and the other a black banner with a dagger and a red cross above a skull and crossbones, with the word INRI. And Shanti, if you need to interrupt me, just interrupt me, because I can't see you on the screen right now because I'm reading it. So just interrupt if you need to.
Oh, good, yeah.
And that's the Latin for it, the meaning of which is it is to be exterminated or not. Okay, I'm going to highlight this. It is just to exterminate or annihilate impious or heretical kings, governments, or rulers. So again, what does heretical mean? It is just to exterminate or annihilate impious or heretical kings, governments, or rulers. So they want us to believe that old Iggy boy got this message from God that they need to basically exterminate, schmurder people like us that don't agree with them. Doesn't seem like God to me. And I would love for Caleb or Jesse to look at this, how this is set up, to tell us what kind of witchery is happening with this ritual. Upon the floor is a red cross at which the postulant or candidate kneels. The superior hands him a small black crucifix, which he takes in his left hand and presses to his heart. And the superior at the same time presents to him a dagger, which he grabs by the blade and holds the point against his heart, the superior still holding it by the hilt, and thus addresses the postulant. Sounds a lot like what the Freemasons do, which the Black Pope, the superior general, is also head of the Freemasons as well. The superior speaks, "My son, theretofore you have been taught to act the dissembler among Roman Catholics, to be a Roman Catholic, and to be a spy, even among your own brethren, to believe no man, to trust no man, among reformers to be a reformer, among the Huguenots to be a Huguenot, among the Calvinists to be a Calvinist, among other Protestants generally to be a Protestant, and obtaining their confidence to seek even to preach from their pulpits and to denounce with all vehemence in your nature our holy religion and the Pope, and even to descend so low as to become a Jew among Jews, that you might be enabled to gather together all of the information for the benefit of your order as a faithful soldier of the Pope." Can we just pause there for a second?
Wow.
So I'm looking at you, Joel Osteen.
Do you want me to take it off? Or?
No, it's okay. I just want to pause there. I pause there because basically they're telling us in this oath, through this stuff that Iggy got in the cave when he was starving himself and beating the shit out of himself, that they have to infiltrate. They have to go into Protestant churches and pretend to be Huguenots, as we say. I know people in France say like Huguenot. We say Huguenot here in America. I'm descendant of Huguenots. Calvinists, I descend from Calvinists too, that they have to go and pretend to be these people in order to infiltrate, which we hear this from Jesse and from Caleb, don't we, Shanti?
Yeah.
We hear this.
Absolutely.
They have to pretend to disavow the Catholicism and the New World Order in order to pull you in, to trick you in. We also see this happening, guys, on YouTube. There are YouTubers, a lot of them, that are part of this order that you guys think are truthers, right? This is very, very typical of what they do. They infiltrate. That's why the story of the story of the Trojan horse is so important. All right, let's go to the next one. You have been taught to, sorry guys, this is very small for me, insidiously plant seeds of jealousy and hatred between community, provinces, states that were at peace, and incite them to deeds of blood, involving them in war with each other, and to create revolution and civil wars in countries that were independent and prosperous, cultivating the arts and the sciences and enjoying the blessings of peace. Take sides with combatants and act secretly with your brother Jesuit, who might be engaged on the other side but openly opposed to that which you might be connected. Only that the church might be gainer in the end in the conditions, fixes, and treaties for peace, and that ends justice the means, and that end justifies the means. Should we pause there, Shanti? Because wow.
I mean, they've been doing that since forever. That's what the wars are about. That's
100%.
what poverty is about.
You guys,
that's what destroying the planet is about.
So you're telling me that God the Creator told this to little Iggy no, this was Lucifer. That's the God they serve. This is the war and the chaos. And for the Americans listening, you guys can check in your own countries. This has been administered into the Library of Congress. This is in our Congress. I would definitely, for anybody watching right now, and after I get done, I can send you the PDF in the private chat. I would definitely suggest that you guys print this off, because I have a feeling the more we talk about it, they're going to make it hard for us to find. So I'm going to send Shanti a link to the PDF for you guys to print it off for yourself to have it at home. Let's see.
Yeah, send it to me, then I'll just pop it in the comments and I'll put it up on the screen.
Absolutely. You have been taught your duty as a spy to gather statistic, facts, and information in your power from every source, to ingratiate yourself into the confidence of the family circle of Protestants and heretics of every class and character, as well as that of the merchant, the banker, the lawyer, among the schools, universities, and parliament, legislator, and the judiciary council of state, and to be all things to all men for the Pope's sake, whose servants we are unto death. And we're going to talk more about the Pope and what the Pope's job is in the Jesuit or the New World Order. You have received all of your instructions heretofore as a novice, a neophyte, and have served as a co-adjurer, confessor, and priest, but you have not yet been invested with all that is necessary to command in the army of Loyola in the service of the Pope. You must serve the proper time as the instrument and the executor as directed by your superiors, or none can command here who has not consecrated his labors with the blood of the heretic. That's us. They want our blood. Or without the shedding of blood of no man can be saved. Therefore, to fit yourself for your work and make your own salvation sure, you will, in addition to your former oath of obedience to your order and allegiance to the Pope, repeat after me the extreme oath of the Jesuits. I, your name, now in the presence of Almighty God, Lucifer. And you guys, like in the Bible, it even says that God handed this planet over to Lucifer. So I don't know why Christians are confused about this. Like, Lucifer is the God of this planet right now. The Blessed Virgin Mary, the Blessed Michael the Archangel, the Blessed Saint John the Baptist, the Holy Apostle Saint Peter, who also was a lunatic and narcissist, and Saint Paul, another lunatic and narcissist, and all the saints and sacred host of, and to you, my ghostly father, the superior general of the Society of Jesus, the Black Pope, founded by Saint Iggy, there's our Iggy, and the pontifice of Paul III, and continued to the present, due by the womb of the Virgin, the matrix of God, and the rod of Jesus Christ, or Zeus, Zeus, that's what Jesus means, declare and swear that His Holiness the Pope is Christ, vice regent, the true and only head of the Catholic or universal church throughout the earth, and that by the virtue of the keys of binding and losing given to His Holiness by my Savior Zeus, otherwise known as Jesus, guys, I'm gonna have to pull my glasses out. Hold on one second, because this is hard to see. Let's see. He hath power to depose the heretical kings, priests, states, commonwealths, governments, and all being illegal without his sacred confirmation, that they may safely be destroyed. Thereto the utmost of my power I shall and will defend this doctrine of His Holiness, right and customs against all usurpers of the heretical or Protestant authority, whatever, especially the Lutheran of Germany, that's Martin Luther, Holland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and now the pretended authority in churches of England and Scotland, and branches of the same now established in Ireland and the continent of America and elsewhere, and all adherents in regard that they be usurped and heretical, opposing the sacred Mother Church of Rome. I do now renounce and disown any allegiance as due to any heretical king, prince, or state, named Protestant or liberals, or obedient to any laws, magistrate, or officers. And we see that word liberal, that has been infiltrated, because the people calling themselves liberals today are not liberals, right? The people calling themselves liberals want a new world order, right? We're the liberals, the heretics. We're the ones that want to live and let people be, and, just be human. Just be a human being. All right. I do further declare that the doctrine of the churches of England and Scotland, of the Calvinists, Huguenots, and others of the name Protestant or liberals, be damnable, and they themselves damned who will not forsake the same. I do further declare that I will assist and advise all or any of His Holiness's agents at any place wherever I shall be, in Switzerland, Germany, Holland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, England, Ireland, or America, or in any other kingdom or territory I shall come to, and do my utterness to extirpate the heretical Protestants or liberals' doctrine and destroy all of their pretend powers, regal or otherwise. I do further promise and declare that notwithstanding I am dispensed with to assume my religion heretical for the propaganda of the Mother Church's interests. Here we go, you guys. They're telling you.
Wow.
You're right.
Propaganda. They actually use the word propaganda.
Propaganda. Yeah. To keep secret and private all her agents' counsels from time to time, as they may entrust me, and not to divulge directly or indirectly by word, writing, or circumstance, whatever, but to execute all that shall be proposed, given in charge, or discovered unto me by you, my ghostly father, or any of this sacred covenant. I do further promise and declare that I will have no opinion. Let's look at this. I do further promise and declare that I will have no opinion or will of my own, or any mental reservation, whatever, even as a corpse or cadaver, which we're going to get into again, necromancy, when we get further into the discussion, but will unhastily obey each and every command that I may receive from my superiors in the militia of the Pope and of Jesus Christ, aka Zeus, that I may go to any part of the world whithersoever I may be sent, to the frozen regions of the north, the burning sands of the desert of Africa, or the jungles of India, in the centers of civilization of Europe, or the wild haunts of the barbarous savages of America. That's what they think of us, guys. I think they covered all of us in that one paragraph. Without murmuring or repining with, and will be submissive in all things whatsoever communicated to me. I further promise and declare that I will, when opportunity presents, make and wage relentless war, secretly or openly, against all heretics, Protestants, and liberals, as I am directed to do, to extirpate and exterminate them from the face of the, let me look at this, guys, exterminate them from the face of the whole earth. So they basically just called us in that first, all of us in this chat right now. Shanti, me, the Africans, the Americans, the Europeans, They call us barbarians. They call us savages. That's what they think of us. And they want to exterminate us from the face of the whole earth if we do not submit. And I will spare neither age, sex, or condition, that I will hang, waste, boil, flay, strangle, bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up the stomachs and wombs of their women, and crush their infants' head against the walls, in order to annihilate forever their execrable race. That when the same cannot be done openly, I will secretly use the poison cup. They're big with poisoning. They're literal. This is literal, guys. We're going to talk about how many people they've poisoned. The strangulation cord, the steel of the poignard of the laden bullet, regardless of the honor, rank, dignity, or authority of the person or persons, whatever may be their condition in life, either public or private, as I at any time may be directed to do so by any agent of the Pope or superior of the Brotherhood of the Holy Faith in the Society of Jesus. So superior, again, the Black Pope. So Francis Borgia was directing people to do this, to, as they got it in red hair, rip up the stomachs and wombs of their women and crush their infants' heads against the wall. That's what Francis Borgia was directing people to do. In confirmation of which, I hereby dedicate my life, my soul, they're selling their soul, and my corporal powers, and with this dagger which I now receive, I will subscribe my name written in my own blood in testimony thereof. And should I prove false or weaken in my determination, may my brethren and fellow soldiers of the militia of the Pope cut off my hands and my feet and my throat from ear to ear. My belly, that they do that in the Freemasonry, my belly opened, and my soul from burned therein, with all the punishment that can be inflicted upon me on earth, that my soul tortured by demons in the eternal hell forever. All of which I, the name, do swear by the blessed Trinity, the blessed sacraments, which I am now to receive, to perform on my own part, to keep inviolable, and to call the heavenly and glorious host of heavens to witness and bless sacred of the Eucharist. That is the cannibalism, communion, and witness the same further with my name written with the point of the dagger, dripping in my own blood, and sealed in the face of this holy covenant. And I don't know if we want to read further, or we can just actually, let's go question answer. Question: who do you serve? Answer: the Holy Father of Rome, the Pope, and the Roman Catholic Church, universal throughout the world. Question: who commands you? The successor of Saint Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Society of Jesus, or the soldiers of Jesus Christ, so the Black Pope? Who receives you? A venerable man with white hair. How? With a naked dagger, kneeling upon the cross beneath the banners of the Pope and our sacred order. Question: did you take an oath? Answer: I did, to destroy the heretics and their governments and rulers, and to spare neither age, sex, nor condition, to be as a corpse without any opinion or will of my own, to be an empty vessel, basically, but to implicitly obey my superiors in all things without hesitation of murmuring. Will you do that? Answer: I will. How do you travel? In the bark of Peter the fisherman. Guys, again, I say Peter, we should not be venerating Peter. Whither do you travel? To the four quarters of the globe. For what purpose? To obey the orders of my general and superiors, and execute the will of the Pope, and faithfully fulfill the conditions of my oath. Question: go ye then into the world, and take possession of all lands in the name of the Pope. He who will not accept him as a vicar of Christ and his vice regents of earth, let him be accursed and exterminated. Anything you want to say there, Shanti?
I'm just disgusted. I mean, it's like, what the hell? Who even writes stuff like that? I mean, who thinks about these things and puts it on a piece of paper? I
I just
mean,
sent the PDF too in the private chat for people to.
Okay, I'm just going to pop that up. I mean, that's just shocking.
And I'm telling you guys, print this off if you can when you get this today, this link, because this has happened to me so many times where I go to dig into a subject and I start finding these links that show evidence of corruption, and the next thing you know, it's gone. So if you guys can just make sure, we got to make sure some people have this printed copy somewhere. Print multiple copies if you can, because this is literally the oath. This is still the oath. This has not been redacted. This has not been, they haven't taken this back. You know, if the Society of Jesus or the Jesuits are just some simple little group of Catholic priests trying to do well in the world and help people, then why do they still have this oath? Why haven't they redacted this oath? Why haven't they changed it?
It's incredible because they control the world. I mean, can you? I mean, can you imagine one of us putting a document like that on the internet? I mean, we'd be banned for life. We'd be arrested for war crimes against humanity, or you know, whatever.
100%.
It's insane to think that this is out there. People are reading it, and it's absolutely out there for people to see. And yet, isn't it crazy that it is so ignored?
Because they're
just
little priests. They're just cute little priests. They're just doing well, and they're not cute little priests. They're more than priests. As you see, they become Jesuits, and then they infiltrate. So, like, I'm looking at you, Joel Osteen, who's a big Protestant preacher here in America. I'm looking at you, Billy Graham.
Those are all shaky fakies, those ones. Yeah. I like to call those the charismatic Christians.
Charismatic. They're agents for the Jesuits. They are Jesuits, you guys. A lot of our politicians, a lot of our actors are Jesuits. And as you see, one of the big things, too, that we have to remember is that they sell their soul in this ceremony. They say they are like a corpse, that they have no opinions or wills of their own.
Right.
So let's kind of look at the hypocrisy here. Like when the event happened in September of 2001, because I know we can't say the date here. Actually, it's today, isn't it? That just gave me chills down my spine. It's today's date.
Yeah.
That's a God wink. We have all these people. We know now that was the Jesuits. That was our own government doing that to us. But back in the time, we thought it was Islamic extremists who were basically taking themselves out with everybody else to prove a point. Well, the Jesuits do the same thing. They have so like if they were told to, put a BOMB on their chest and walk into a school, they would do it without thought. Because they're just an empty vessel. They sell their soul to the Black Pope to be a mindless robot and just do the bidding of this Illumishmati. And that's the thing and remember, they say over and over again that they're going to go after people regardless of race or sex, because we know in wartime, in most cultures, women and children are off limits. We know that a lot of low-level military, like low-level people who enter to serve their country, they don't want to hurt the locals, right? So they're making a differentiation here that regardless of who it is, regardless, and they're not just going to take us out. The ones they've taken out with poison, those were the lucky ones. And sorry, guys, the construction workers are being very loud. So if you hear beating in the background, that's not a demon. Maybe there are demons. These construction workers are pissing me the F off, but that's the construction workers. So they literally, we're going to talk about the Spanish Inquisition. Don't you guys worry. And what they did during the Spanish Inquisition, what they did to people, that's still part of their oath. So can you imagine if the New World Order takes control, what's going to happen to all of us? With pleasure, right? So that's why it's so important that we print these copies out. Hell, I would print out copies, highlight what's needed, and just go throw them in your city.
Yeah.
A PSA, a public service announcement. Be like, are you guys aware of this? Because it's in our Library of Congress here in the United States.
Wow.
Right? It's one thing to be executed. It's another thing to be executed in the way that they want to do it. They want you in pain. They want that.
Well, that's exactly. But let's go back to why. Let's never forget that, because obviously they're living water. Our soul, our spirit is pretty much the living water, which is what they're after. That's what does Caleb say? It's better than gold. We think as alchemists, gold is the metal they're after. It's not. It's living water, and really, living water translates into your soul, your consciousness, because they don't have that. So that's obviously they have to put us in pain and fear and trauma. And you see anyone who's been possessed by an entity, anyone who has some type of schizophrenia, anything like that, those spirits that inhabit that body, they drive that body to do the cruelest, craziest things, the most hurtful and harmful. I mean, one of the things was a movie I recently watched, Nefarious. And at the end, I mean, it's a prison. I mean, I want to highly recommend, if anyone hasn't watched that movie, go and watch it, because it shows you what happens when these things inhabit a body. And I mean, and because literally what they want is the most pain. And at the end, when this guy was executed, he wanted they had to have the most painful execution for the body, because that was his glorified exit from the earth. So these entities want, and these guys are all driven by these entities. They want pain, they want suffering, they will push until the end to get it, because that's like, I don't know. I mean, how does one compare that to anything? But bottom line is, as long as we are in control of our own being, our own body, we're in truth, we aligned with Christ, God, source, divine creator, you will know what to do. You will know what to do. You will be in the right place at the right time.
Well, what's crazy is, you think about, like, when I was a kid, I would think about like World War II, like what would I have done if I were a German in World War II? And now we kind of know how we would have responded. And I think about it now and I'm like, what if I knew that speaking out would end in like certain death for me? And it's like, I can't help but speak out, because this is so effing wrong. We're being lied to, we're being manipulated. It's just so wrong on so many levels. And to not speak out, I mean, it's reassuring though. The Cassiopeians do say that this group is going to be able to do about 80% of what they want to do before,
Right.
but too many people are aware now, and they have to go by, they are still stuck with the rules of consent. So if the collective consciousness of a planet majority is going in one direction, then they lose their power, because the collective consciousness of that planet doesn't want them to lead them. They don't want to be enslaved.
The Hunger Games. Let's just take the Hunger Games as a macrocosm, a microcosm of what's happening, in the macro. So the minute we realize that we are being duped, we turn around and we say no. They can do nothing. There's a few, 3 or 4 fat cats sitting at the top, pushing a few buttons, and we kind of jumping left, right, and center. But when we decide no more, it'll be no more. So, I mean, and as you say, Brice, it's history repeating itself over and over again, just in a different way. But we have the power, And it's true. We know that this planet is governed by Lucifer currently. But honestly, when we reclaim our power from everyone we've given it away to, we give away our power when we say no, and we should be saying yes, or yes when we should be saying no. That's how we give our power away. It begins there. So start taking it back. These sound like airy-fairy little things that we have to do, but I've got to tell you, this is what we have to do.
It's based off your conscious energy of choice.
Exactly.
And I mean, I will say the Cassiopeians even said that there's only like 3,000 Illuma Shmati members left, because they keep inbreeding.
So what, they've got the same soul with different bodies, like.
Well, you say that goes down to the organic portals. Like I think a lot of these Jesuits are organic portals, and they don't have souls, and so they're like little robots. But the people at the top, unfortunately, the Black Pope, they have souls just like us, and they're making the choice to go in the negative route. But still they can't. If a collect, so they will do their trickery and their propaganda to get us to try to get us to choose our own enslavement. But the problem is we keep waking up more and more and more and more, and just by consciously being aware. Now, I think my personal opinion is that they've been able to continue, because a lot of people who think they're awake aren't awake, because they're still very submissive to the church. And as we're seeing, that's the tippy top of the Illumishmati. Protestantism too. And so as long as you're still submitting to the church, you're still consenting.
Don't give the church your hard-earned money. Please don't. You know, rather go and feed a child on the street for the day, or go to the animal sanctuary and you know, buy 50 kilos of dog food for them, whatever.
Absolutely.
You know, just God, you know, money is what keeps them in control.
Yep.
Money is the thing that keeps that structure going. So the minute we withdraw our money from them, you know, and this nonsense that you've got to tithe X amount to the church every month is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Stop it. If you're doing it, stop it.
Even when I was in my early 20s, I felt that way. I'd look at my church I grew up in and be like, it's a bunch of wealthy people, lawyers and doctors, and they keep donating, and the church just keeps building more gymnasiums. And it's like, I don't think that's what you're supposed to do. I think because every single member of this church is also a member of the country club where they've got gyms and tennis courts. So I don't understand what's happening. Take this money and invest it in helping the homeless and helping people, you know. Start a fund to help underprivileged children get an education. I don't know. Do something that's going to help people. And so in my early 20s, when I started to work, I would donate, I would tithe, but I would pick every month a different either organization I liked or you know, to try to help. I loved, when I lived in Los Angeles, I loved the food banks. I would go and buy a bunch of food. And I actually would volunteer at the food bank. So I would buy food and then I would help pack the packages and like give it to the people. It was near Skid Row where they're all homeless. And I would actually like be the one to help them pass out the food, because I felt like that was a better investment of not only just my little bit of my money, but also my energy and time too, to serve those that were less fortunate than me. And so I feel like that's what Yahshua meant.
Because it is in giving that we receive. Let's never forget that. It is in giving that we receive, but we've got to be as willing to receive as well. We can't just give and give. No, I'm fine. You've got to be able to receive and get help, etc., and ask for help when you need it.
That's what we do on the side of light. We help each other.
Exactly. So when you give, you receive, and let us never forget that. You know, at the end of the day, it's up to us. We are here. We are the generations. We are here at the time where we get to change this. We get to be the forerunners in changing the tide of the earth. And when we can do that, and I mean, what a miracle. I mean, what a time to be alive. What a legacy we leave behind us. So I hope all of you don't give your money to the church.
No, and print that, make copies of it for Christmas this year. Wrap that sucker in everybody's Christmas present. Just be like, it'll be this.
Brice being petty.
What is this? What is this?
Did you read it? Did you read it? Is
this what you want to serve? Is this what you want? And the Protestants, I'm looking at you too, because Protestants are not in the clear. We serve the Protestant churches serve the Jesuits just like the Catholic Church. So listen, if we want to, you know, we came here to save a planet. We, not one person, we all did. We came here to save a planet, and we save a planet by being petty badasses.
Yeah, exactly. And cute. We're cute while we do it as well.
We're not inbred. That's why we're cute.
We don't have a Habsburg chin.
My parents are siblings, y'all. Imagine that. My parents are not siblings. How cool is that? They're not cousins either. They're not second cousins. My parents are not biologically related. How amazing. Imagine that. So
exactly. I'm so happy my father's not my uncle. Oh gosh. I mean, I'm sorry guys, that's probably not a good joke to be laughing at, but something about that tickles my fancy.
But you know okay, one of them, so we have a bigger gene pool to pull from than I do. I mean, even the Cassiopeans make fun of them. They can't even produce anymore because they're so inbred. They've lost their fertility, so all they have is minions now. That's all they have. That's why they're so desperate.
Right. And the thing is, They've already transgendered so many of them. None of them can have their own babies anymore.
Their own rules and regulations F them so hard that all they have, that's why it's so obvious. The propaganda is so obvious to us because they're desperate. They're going scorched earth because there's only like 3,000 of them left and they can't have any more babies because they're too effed up biologically and genetically because they inbred themselves and changed their genders, and sucks to be them.
They bred themselves off the planet.
They inbred themselves. They literally, like, did they not study nature? Like, God made it pretty clear that we should not be boinking our family members. Like, he made that pretty clear that we should not be boinking our family members.
Funny. Guys and girls, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We had a great chat, lots of fun to be hanging out with you all again. And this is me after a
Monday. We'll go through the Council of Trent and the history of the Jesuits.
Yeah,
now
let's do it.
Oh, Iggy boy, our cute little narcissist. Such a cute little narcissist he was. Talking to himself in a cave. How adorable.
Such a naughty boy. Okay. Lots of love, everybody. God bless you all. And I'm not sure if I'll see you tomorrow, but hang in there, I might. But you'll see me again soon. Okay, guys. Take care. Have a beautiful day and evening, and may all the richest blessings rain upon you.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.